Well, hello, paradigm shifters. So grateful that you could all come to Hawaii with us this week, this Tuesday. Aloha. Well, Paradigm Shifters is a global community of uplifters, and what a better way to get lifted than to go to the islands and talk to Diana Grim, Grem, Gremillion. I love it. Did I say that right? Yes. All right. Let me talk. So, aloha, Diana. How are you doing today?
Oh, Karen, Judy, I'm doing so well. I'm so grateful to be here with you today, Judy, talking about how it came to be that I'm living this dream in Hawaii when I'm originally a New York girl.
Let me give you a little bit of bio about you. I have it right here, and there you go. Diana is an international speaker and master coach whose past achievements include advising billion-dollar deals for Fortune 500 companies. And I love this. I can't wait for you to talk about this. Cooking a Michelin starred meal for former President Obama. God. And when Diana lost her hair and her identity as a chef due to burnout, she resolved to find a way to transform her nightmare into a new adventure. So today, Diana has inspired thousands of people to transform their rotten ingredients and manifest their dreams without sacrificing their health or happiness. She's been featured on the Inspire You and Me TV show and shared the stage with global thought leader Mary Morrissey. Hello, Diana. What
Hi,
do you have?
Judy.
What are you cooking up for us today?
Today I want to talk about how sometimes when we see somebody who's living their dream life, we think that it was easy to get there. But my experience has been that oftentimes it starts from a nightmare situation. It starts from something difficult happening to us. And when I think about that, I think that I realized in my own life that there were all these different messages and like kind of themes around my life, and one of them is really rebuilding from these difficult situations. I was actually a high school senior during 9/11, and I went to school just 2 blocks away. So I learned really early on how that my life wasn't guaranteed and that I didn't know what could possibly happen. And though that experience was like so painful that I literally don't remember all of it, I do remember seeing how we've rebuilt, how the city of New York rebuilt, how the country rebuilt, how the neighborhood that I'd grown up in that was turned into a war zone rebuilt. And it really inspired me to realize that everything that I thought was true about my life at that point, I had the opportunity to shift it. And I used to be a very different woman. I was super shy. I did not have a lot of friends. I was probably a little more mean um, than I wish that I was. But what that experience really helped me see I didn't want to be that person anymore. And so I started to make changes in who I was. I was like, I don't really like this person. Almost, not knowing what was going to happen that day made me see like, okay, I need to make changes that are more in alignment with who I want to be. And eventually, through my life, I started to see that there were these patterns of going through crisis because 9/11 was one. You mentioned the burnout that I experienced when I was working as a chef, but I was also a part of the global financial crisis. I was an investment banker at the time and lost my job. And that's actually the story that I'd love to share because I think it's a lot of fun. So, global financial crisis, subprime was going on, and investment banks were laying people off left and right. And I knew it was my turn coming up because my boss had just been laid off. And I knew I was looking at like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to work? Am I going to work for somebody else again? Should I go back to school? What should I do with my time? And I had a still small voice come in and tell me that if I were to go back to school, the way it came in, I'll give it its words that if you're going back to school, you're going to culinary school. And
Oh,
instantly I said, no, 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 that's just something I do for fun. It's something that I do with, to cook at home. Like I just like to do it. But no, I should work for a hedge fund. I should go to business school. I should do something that makes sense. I have a certain lifestyle. And even as I talked to my parents about it, they were like, you're going to give up the Louboutins for the kitchen clogs? I don't think so. And so there were all these ideas about how this wasn't the right fit for me. But I couldn't deny that every night I would go home after working 14, 16-hour days and I'd want to cook. And how was it that I felt exhausted at work and still found the time and the energy when I got home after being exhausted to cook and have fun? And so over time, I realized, that was a special gift. That was something really special. And I really did love cooking. And one day I walked into my boss's office and let him know I'm going to culinary school. And he was like, why don't you wait until the end of the year? You can get a bonus and all these things. And I'm so glad I said, no, this is my time now. And I didn't know at the time, but there were so many other forces that were at work in that play where what happened was my husband, who I didn't know was my husband at the time, he was going through his own form of transformation and having to make decisions to get to that school as well. And so we ended up meeting in that school. And at first, it was not like instant love at first sight. He was dating someone else, I was dating someone else. But the fact that he was so passionate about his cooking and seeing how it came through in him really inspired me and it drew us together into a relationship. So I literally ended up meeting my husband because I made this choice and was able as a result to shift my life into something that was so much beyond the ordinary. I moved to San Francisco where I worked at Michelin starred restaurants, and that was where I got a chance to cook for Obama. Worked for Danny Meyer on the East Coast as well, and helped him open restaurants. And so I got to live this extraordinary life of travel and eating at amazing places. Because we were chefs, we went to Italy and all these Italian restaurants would host us and give us these amazing meals. And we get to go behind the scenes in the kitchen to see what it was that they did. And in that, again, remember where this started. Remember that it started with me losing my job. Remember that me shifting my life started with me almost losing it. And that it's really about taking these ingredients that sometimes look rotten and transforming them into something else. And when I used to be a cook, or when I was a chef, one of my very favorite things to make was the family meal. If you've ever worked, have you ever worked in a kitchen, Judy, or in a restaurant?
no, just as a waitress, I just love to eat it.
Yeah, you know family meal then, right? Where like the
Oh,
kitchen
yeah.
will bring together a meal, and it's usually out of scraps, right? It's out of like nothing. It's whatever they have that's like rotten, like not rotten, but maybe past its prime, not servable to customers, but something that they can make something out of for the staff. And that was actually my very favorite meal to make. And that was my very favorite thing to do because I loved being resourceful. I loved taking the scraps, these things that looked rotten, these things that were just a little bit of something, and finding a way to put it all together and make something special that was so much more than the sum of its parts. And I think that's something that we can do as well with the bitter or the sour or the salty ingredients in life. We can take that salty, sour bitterness and actually couple it with another flavor to create depth and to create something greater. And that's what I think that we have the opportunity to do in life. Because if you think about it, cheese, this is rotten milk. This is rotten milk that's been treated in a certain way to bring out its best qualities. These are rotten grape juice right here. And so when we look at the ingredients that we have and we can look at them in a different way, we can see that, you know what, this is not something that's bad. Something that happens to us can be something that transforms us. That milk had to have something happen to it. Something something shifted its nature. Something happened to this milk in order for it to become more. And that's exactly what happens to us, I believe, in life. And so, one of the very last stories is that like So I worked as a chef, right? I was highly successful in that. But eventually I got so burned out that I had to stop doing it. And so that was another huge crisis for me and another form of loss. And you can see now in my whole life, there are these processes of like loss and pain. But what most people see only is the beautiful parts, right? The living in Hawaii, the TV shows, the billion-dollar deals, and they don't see the pain that was behind that. And I think that there's so much to see and realize that like these difficult times, these difficult times really can shape our life for the better. We can find the we can find the longing and the discontent in these experiences. When I was a banker, it was not feeling fulfilled in the kind of work that I was doing, not loving that I was advising these corporations when I felt like in my soul I was supposed to advise a different group.
Mm.
Or even when I was working as a chef, as much as I loved training people and showing them how to take an onion and a potato and transform it into something Michelin starred, it was so much more important to me to teach and transform something else, I realized. And that ultimately led me to coaching it. When I first found out about coaching though, I think I was probably one of the very few people who was very cynical about it. I told the person who suggested it to me that it was a fake job because I had such a different mindset at the time. But as I found out more about it, I realized that now I get to take life's rotten ingredients. I get to take these traumas, these crises, these painful experiences that seem like they can hold us back and show people no, this is something that you can use to enrich your life. My life would never be as rich as it is today if I never survived 9/11. I
Mm.
wouldn't know that life is that short. If I never gotten fired or almost lost my job as an investment banker, I might still be working on Wall Street. I might have what I thought was my dream at the time, which was like having a brownstone on the Upper East Side. That might be my life. If I'd never burned out, I never would have moved here to Hawaii. And so whatever pain that you're going through, whatever rotten ingredients you have, look for a way to turn it into something even better, something beautiful, something more and meaningful. And when you're able to do that, you actually add a lot of richness because actually some of our very favorite foods in the whole world are things that have gone bad or go through some form of process to become what they are. Chocolate, coffee, cheese, charcuterie, wine, some of life's favorite things, some of the most wonderful things that we get to enjoy. We enjoy the deep flavor, and sometimes we forget that it comes from a place of something that might be sour or bitter. But that when we're able to couple that with sweet, with depth, with richness, then it's not just some bitter chocolate, it's a delicious chocolate cake. It's a delicious bottle of wine. It has complexity and all these different notes, and it makes the palate sing, and it makes us come alive. And so, whatever our rotten ingredients are in life, use them to come alive. Use them to become more and live the life of your dreams because it's 100% possible for you.
Oh, amen. Amen. So I have a question for you.
Please.
Well, so during the last year in Hawaii, there's probably been quite a few changes because of
Yes.
COVID and everything. So, is that another life changing experience for maybe you and the people of Hawaii? I'm so curious. What's going on?
Yes, tourism has taken a definite hit here, and it's a shame in many ways because our industry was so tourism heavy, and now with tourism shifting, many people are finding themselves out of jobs. Many corporations are stuck with these huge buildings with nobody inside them. There's all these different challenges that impact our economic well-being here in Hawaii. But again, I am still a believer that by losing these things, that something else must be coming. And I think there's actually even been a realization here that there's an over reliance on tourism, and that we want to start to build other industry. And so people are thinking about how we can build other industry. And so what I see is tons of opportunity, because now more than ever, people are willing to virtually Zoom and hang out with people in Texas
Yes.
and do all these different things. So I think there's, I'm not saying that it's not difficult, and I'm not saying that it's not painful or that people aren't going through something, but that there still is this opportunity here. And we need to look at it and find where's our opportunity in the situation to find something new. Uh, I mentioned I'm super introverted, and I don't like to, at least in the very beginning of 2020, I didn't post on social media or do any of that stuff. Like, not my, super shy, not my place. But when this crisis happened, I remember again hearing from another still small voice that told me, "You're made for this time." And I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't understand what that meant, but I was like, okay, I'm supposed to show up. And so I started doing lives, even though I was uncomfortable. And I just to send out that message of like, hey, I know the world looks crazy, but it doesn't have to shake you. And just sending out those sort of messages of, hey, I'm here with you in the crisis, and I'm standing in it with you, and I'm standing firm, and you can stand firm with me. Just giving people that hope and helping them see how crisis has shifted and can shift for them. But actually, the group that I've felt really, really called to speak to recently is young adults. I feel like because I was a 9/11 survivor, I have a very unique experience of seeing and understanding what it's like to go through crisis firsthand and have your whole world upended. And I think many kids, many young adults are going through that right now, where they may have had plans for what the future looks like, and no longer does that future that was conventional exist or as a possibility for them anymore. And I think many of them can come from this place of hopelessness or despair, feeling like they've lost something. And I don't doubt that they've lost something, but I do believe that in its place, there's space for gain. And I feel very called to share that message.
Well, I noticed, well, two things. Um, one, I must tell you, like, I was not in a very good spot on Christmas.
Yeah.
And you put out, hey, let's all get together and make chocolate chip cookies. I've got this thing, and I'm like, oh, do you think we could do that? I don't cook. And so you put out the recipe, and I'm like, oh, and I went and I got all of this stuff, and I was following you. You're such a good teacher. You actually went point by point, told the scientific things, what happens to this cookie. And I made like this ton of chocolate chip cookies on Christmas. I was so proud of myself. And I'm like, wow, I get to actually make cookies from Hawaii with my friend and
Yeah.
on Christmas Eve. So I just want to, one, so thank you for that. Two, I think last week you were making some kind of salad dressing. Sometimes,
Yeah, yeah. On my personal page, I'll just make stuff. Because I know that it's just another aspect of my life that I love to teach, and I'm so much about both the art and the science of transformation. And sometimes people see it or understand it more through food. So I love sharing. I love sharing
well, I want to
recipes
go
and
back.
things like
I also want to go back and I want to ask you more. I think that you are doing something with those youth, and how can we help you? You put out something, and I would love to have you talk about that because you actually are in action with doing something for those teenagers,
that.
right?
Yeah, I'm in contact with several nonprofits to speak with them. If they, I've asked for groups specifically that serve kids between 13 and 25. So somewhere in that range is who I would like to work with. And it could be that they have people who are younger, but I want to make sure that some of those people are in that range, kind of thing. I just want to share the message so that they can see, hey, this is somebody who literally survived one nightmare after another, and every single time leveled up and made it, into a life that looks like a dream for many people and seems impossible. And that spirit and that strength came from surviving the what seemed impossible.
Ah,
And
great.
that's what they're doing right now, not by choice, but because they've been put in this situation.
Yes. Well, so before we wrap up, we really want to ask you, what is it that we can hold as our paradigm shifters community? And right now, there's over 700 of us as of this morning. What is it that we can hold for you personally, to uplift you and to keep you going? And what would you love? Just what would you love out of the blue? You've got it.
I would love I would love it just if my message inspired somebody who is in a place of hopelessness and despair. Because I'm a big believer that the depths of the darkness that we survive, they don't have to hold us down. It can actually lay the bedrock and the foundation for us rising like a skyscraper. And if you know anything about buildings or anything like that, the depth of the foundation determines how high the building can go because the depth allows for that building to hold the weight of how high it rises. So if you're in a deep, dark place, I want for you to know that you've been poised to rise so high. That's what I want people to know is that when we go through difficult times, it's there for us to transcend and to rise, and that's what we've actually been put here to do.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. We so appreciate you, and yeah, and all you're doing, and all your experience, and that you keep on going and growing. So thank you so much, Diana.
Thank you, Judy. This was so much fun. Next time, maybe I'll make an actual recipe. We planned this so last minute on the fly. I didn't have any time to get any ingredients for something. But next time
Ooh.
we can do. I can maybe braise something in the background and talk a little bit about that kind of stuff. It'd be fun.
Oh, amen, amen. You are on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay.